Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Right Side. Doug Billings with you today on the program, Unity. It's time to unify these United States, ladies and gentlemen, and we can only do that if we follow 5 precepts. I'm going to cover them all today. Basically, we've got to come to an agreement that we need the divine providence of God in the mix here. We also need to believe in the original intent of the founding fathers. And through those 2 starting points, we begin then to see our way clear back to reuniting with one another. There is a radical left-wing element that needs to be eliminated before we can even come close to having discussions about unifying ourselves in this republic. That radical left-wing movement, no offense to the ones who are not radicalized, but we're going to talk about that today. Unification of us, we the people, today. The Right Side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey everybody, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right Side with Doug Billings, Right Side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and His divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
Hi, everybody. Doug Billings here with you, smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain, coming to you on every imaginable platform out there. Holy moly. I'm everywhere. Thanks for joining me, whether you're on X or Rumble or YouTube, Facebook, wherever you may be. The good people at worldofyoutube.com helping me out producing the show. Would appreciate it if you go check them out as well. Lots of good content at worldofyoutube.com. Today, listen, over the weekend, I went and saw the movie Reagan. Okay, I purposefully waited for a few weeks, maybe it's even been a few months now since the release date of that movie. I just don't like to go to crowded movie theaters, folks. I don't. The older I get, the more I avoid crowds. Just don't like them. I typically get there a seat up towards the back of the auditorium, away from the entranceways. In case any kook wants to come in and cause problems, I'm way back in the corner. I've got my trusty sidearm with me everywhere I go. And that's the world in which we live. And I don't like the crowds. So I go early to get a seat. And sometimes I buy the seat next to me. Is that? I'll let you psychoanalyze that on your own time, but I do. Sometimes I buy the seat next to me just because if it's going to be a crowd, I want to have some space. So that's it. And a lot of times I take my older son with me and some other friends, but I went by myself this weekend, which I'm not ashamed to admit. I do it often. I go see movies a lot by myself. I like them. I check them out. And this one especially, there are some things in here I just felt like I had to talk about. It's a great movie. Now, look, I know that the liberal media and all this are panning it, and of course they will. They'll do everything in their power to convince you not to go to this movie because it's a good movie about a conservative president, about one of the most significant, if not one of the most significant presidents that this republic has ever had, Ronald Reagan. And the older I get, the more I can see this, the more I can see the division that is caused by elements of the radical left. I think that what we have been forced to do as conservatives is to live under a nightmare that has been catapulted upon us by this radicalized liberal group. Now, I don't think that every person in this country who considers themselves a Democrat is a kook, but I do think there's a certain loud minority group within what was formerly known the Democrat Party that have become just absolutely radicalized beyond anything that's recognizable, certainly by what the the intent of the founding fathers would be, certainly I think most reasonable people would look at them and think, wow, this is not a political party that is putting forth pro-America agendas. I mean, when you look at the border, when you look at the mandates, when you look at other things, it's often obvious that this is not a pro-America movement. And so I don't blame everybody, but I do blame the very loud and the very boisterous minority group within that party that is controlling everything within the party. The minority of that party is controlling the majority. I'm convinced of that. I just don't believe that the majority of that party, just like I don't believe the majority of Americans believe in the radical liberal agenda. I just don't buy it, not for one moment. And I think other people are beginning to find that out and believe it themselves. But I was really taken back by this movie. I thought it was a great tribute to a great American president. Ronald Reagan, I think by anyone's assessment, anyone who's intellectually mature, anyone's assessment would be that he is certainly within the top 5 to 6 presidents who have ever lived and served this republic. But I think also it was a very subtle commentary about what we're going through today. Now, the issues of today were not brought up in the movie, but the parallels that we're living in today as opposed to what was going on during the time of Ronald Reagan are obvious. And I'm going to get to that. But I think it's good, especially when people create movies like this that are beautiful biographies. And again, as I said, of one of America's most beloved presidents. It's a call, really, in a lot of ways, to all of us to reunite with each other, to reunite with the United States of America. And it's a recollection, I think, of how it once was when people of all sorts of different opinions, political ideologies, could disagree during the course of business of the day, but then could have a beer together that evening during happy hour. You know what I mean? That it was illustrated in the movie in the relationship between Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, two Irishmen who were politically opposite ends of the spectrum, but who were able to put those political differences aside and at least remain cordial and remain friends. I'm old enough to remember watching that relationship play out on television, in the news and on State of the Union addresses and so forth. I can remember when all of that was going on. I can remember seeing that relationship and going, that's interesting and that's good that these two guys who disagree so often on so many topics can laugh together, shake hands, and become and remain friends in private life. That's good. And Ronald Reagan was the first president that I voted for in my life, and I voted for him twice. So I liked the fact that it showed that dynamic between how opposites can still be friends. But I also think that in many ways it is a subtle campaign advertisement for Donald Trump. Now, President Trump obviously never mentioned in this movie, nor should he have been. Donald Trump was not on the political scene during the filming, during the day when Reagan was on the political scene. So I'm not suggesting that Trump should have been involved in somehow the movie. But what I'm saying is the parallels between America then and America now are very interesting to look at. The movie yearns for, in as much as it speaks about the exceptionalism of America, that Ronald Reagan helped to reignite, that exceptionalism that we all know is there. The very heart and soul of America is exceptional. Its founding, its inspiration is exceptional. And Ronald Reagan helped to reignite that. And what we see in the country today is a need for that again, for that exceptionalism to be reignited so that we can believe in the American exceptionalism. We know it's there. Now, the movie captured, I think, a lot of a president's love of country, so much that when we look at these presidents and what they've done, and I'm not talking just about the conservative ones. I know that there are liberal presidents in our country's past who have given up much of their personal lives to serve the country and so forth. I have always respected ex-presidents by referring to them as president. I don't go around and say, well, the former President Barack Obama or former President Clark. They're president for life. We always extend the honor of referring to them as such. And they all have sacrificed. But in these cases of Reagan, and I think when I look at Donald Trump, the difference in which they sacrifice and the difference in the messages that they put forth couldn't be more different. They, on the one hand, with Reagan, reigniting rather of the American exceptionalism, the belief that we are founded and inspired by God himself, that we have a destiny to the world, to be that place where people can come to find the American dream, to build a life, and to experience what real liberty and freedom are all about. I believe that Reagan reignited that, and it was snuffed out in America for a long time. And I think that we in America need that kind of vision. And that's what Make America Great Again means to so many millions of people. That is not a bad word. It's not a dirty word. Make America Great is a beautiful thing. It has been liberalized and butchered and brutalized by the radical liberal wing of the media, especially, but in the elected class as well, to some sort of, to make us all feel somehow, their goal is to make us all feel embarrassed. We are not embarrassed of the tag, Make America Great Again. That's what we need to do. And I think that Trump is trying to do that. I know that Reagan did it. And so it's a very poignant film. It's a very touching look at a president who I think by all counts, again, ranks as one of the best. And Reagan came along, of course, at a time where there was certain existential and outside of America threats to us, to the sovereignty of America. And I think that also in his time, just as there is today, there are internal threats to America in Reagan's time and now in our time. And those anti-American sentiments are, I think, many times put forth by the radical left. The radical left. Not, again, as I said at the beginning, not every Democrat out there in the world is a radicalized liberal. Because believe me, multiple millions of people who are Democrat, I've said this to you before, John and Jane Doe on the streets of America who may have voted for Administrator Biden are good people. And they're looking around at what Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris have done, and they're deciding right now, this is not what I signed up for. This is not the America that I believe in. And they're coming over to our side. And so ironically, when I look at this movie and when I thought about the time of Reagan, Donald Trump is also campaigning for the presidency of the United States when similar situations are happening. We have external threats to the United States. Russia is always there. Russia has been an external threat for decades, as you all know. China, the same way. But we also have internal threats to the United States. The Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, it's a threat. They are not an American political party any longer. And Donald Trump is trying to save America from these threats, just as Reagan was trying to save America from the threats that were taking place during his time. And I think that the parallels are interesting. I think we have to talk about it on this program today. I want to talk about it with you. We're going to take calls. If you feel like you want to call in and be part of the conversation, obviously I welcome that. 901-316-8404, 901-316-8404. We'll open the phone lines in a moment. But I think there's 5 key ways that we can talk about reuniting ourselves within the United States of America and the people reuniting behind the ideals of this republic that were set up. We have to acknowledge certain truths, though, in order to do this. In order to begin the conversation, we have to come together with the truth. And the truth is that, again, the Democrat Party that Ronald Reagan had to deal with doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't. The Democrat Party of Tip O'Neill, the Democrat Party of Jimmy Carter, the Democrat Party of Bill Clinton doesn't exist any longer. Once we recognize that, we can begin to discuss how we can begin to talk about reuniting these United States and the people, most importantly, within the states. And I think a good starting point number one I would like to make is that we have got to return to open and free belief and discussion about the divine providence of God and the role that it played in the creation and inspiration of this republic. The concept that there is a creator, that our rights come to us from him, from nowhere else. The belief that God is the fountainhead of all of the other discussions, all of the other really issues that will have to be faced within this republic in order to reunify ourselves with each other. We need to believe in that first, that there is this creator who has endowed us with, as the founders wrote, certain unalienable rights. It's from this belief, I think anyway, that our liberty takes root. In that belief from God that he gave us our rights, there is our liberty, our pathway, and our roots to what America is about. American freedom and American liberty are not born from some fantasy or from some fiction, but from the reality that God wanted to create this republic. And so he inspired our founders to do it. Our freedom, our liberty, all of the rights, all of them come to us from God himself. Point number one, where we must begin. And with that belief comes certain responsibilities, because God requires us to live our lives in a specific manner with a belief in him, first of all, and then with morality and with integrity that are based in the Judeo-Christian principles that are the foundation of this country. To live a moral life means that we're not only called by a perfect God, but to believe in him, but to believe in the perfection of the creation that he has provided for us. So we begin there, point number one. I'm just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. 5 ways in about how we can reunite with each other within the republic. I'm up against a break. Don't forget, stay right where you are, but eventually head over to dougbillings.us and click the donate button over there. Make sure you support me. That's how I give you the show for free. That's how we produce it and get it out to you. Thank you very much. I will be right back. Take a joyful trip into the land of capitalism. Cheers. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. Hey, want to tell you about beef. Doug's Beef, DougsBeef.com. This is not your ordinary beef. This is prepper beef. If you want to have a supply of protein on hand, I'm talking ribeye, strip steaks, Kansas City and New York strip, and T-bones as well. Doug's Beef, ladies and gentlemen, check it out. Comes to you in freeze-dried packets, shelf life of 25 years. And when you cook this stuff up, I'm telling you, I wouldn't sell it if it wasn't delicious. Awesome stuff. DougsBeef.com. Head over there, take a look at all of the inventory, and stock your shelves with protein, with good tasting stuff. DougsBeef.com, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out. There's the beef. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouse.bg.com.
Doug Billings, driving the left crazy with the truth.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Right Side with Doug Billings. We meet over here, as always, in determined prayer, determined patriotism. It's your determined patriotism that is the key to the reunification of all of us within this republic. I'm talking about my impressions of the movie Reagan and where it left me spiritually, where it left me emotionally, and where it left me politically. As I look out along the landscape of this republic and I see the division that's out there, that's obvious, we can all see it, and to analyze what its root cause is and how we then can eliminate the problem and then come together again as a people. So again, I was talking about the 5 items that I think we have to begin to believe in again as Americans in order to reunite. The first one, I suggested to you that the belief in the divine providence of God is something that we have got to return to, and to live a moral life, meaning that we are called by a perfect God to not only believe in him, but to believe in the perfection of the creation that he has provided us, the creation, the world, and the rights that come from him within that world. We're the principal beings in this world, by the way. We are the apple of his eye. We are the number one item on the list of everything that God has created. And so returning to a free and open belief and a discussion about the divine providence of God, just as the founding fathers did, I think means that we have to become a moral people. And this morality is, of course, based on the Judeo-Christian principles that have foundationally supported this republic since its inception. Okay, so returning to the divine providence of God, step number one on how we begin to reunite as a people underneath the banner of our American Republic. And I think then that leads to number two, which means a return to the original intent of the founding fathers. We have to begin to believe and come together with the truth concerning the birth of our republic. First of all, that indeed we are a republic. America is not a democracy. The founding fathers had very specific and very passionate debates about that very topic. They did not want us to be a democracy. No, in their view, that was mob rule, and they're right, and we can't have it here. It's not a democracy. We have a republican form of government in a republic, and we have no need in any form or fashion to be fundamentally transformed away from what God intended and the founders put in place. I mean, it's impossible, my friends, it's impossible for anyone to be an American patriot and claim at the same time that America needs to be fundamentally transformed. That person is not an American patriot. God himself inspired the creation of this republic. Our founding documents are inspired by God and written by men. Ladies and gentlemen, God and the founders got America right. They got it right. So we've got to turn away from the radicalized ideology that America needs to be fundamentally transformed. It's crazy. It's nuts. It's not patriotic. It's not true. And it includes the nonsense of trying to eliminate brilliant American institutions set forth by the founders, such as the Electoral College or the Supreme Court. To fundamentally transform or eliminate them in any way is not patriotic. It's not the intent of the founding fathers. Yet there are people out there who are radicalized who will do everything within their power to convince you that I'm a kook, that they should be fundamentally transformed, that we've got to get rid of them. It's not the truth. We need to return to, again, step number one is the most important, to realize and believe that God created, God inspired this republic. And with that inspiration, he gave us a set of rubrics, a set of rights, a set of laws, a set of ideals and principles that were codified within the writings of our founding documents. That's step number two, all right? Returning to the intent of the founding fathers. Step number three, as we begin to search for ways that we can reunite this country and the people within her, we've got to return to the concept and the belief and the structure of traditional American families. The traditional American family is a traditional Judeo-Christian family, ladies and gentlemen. And I mean that we have got to begin to agree that when we return to the divine providence of God, then we have also got to come to agreement that American family values involve the same set of Judeo-Christian principles and approach to the family that were intended by the founding fathers. The family has been under attack for decades in this country. And far too long, the radicalized left, and believe me, again, just to reiterate, I'm not talking about John and Jane Doe, Mr. and Mrs. Neighbor on Main Street, people that might live next door to you who are decent, good, moral people who may have voted for Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris. I'm talking about the radicalized, the ones who want to fundamentally transform, take to the streets, and tear down the exceptionalism that is America, destroy it, and build it back better in some sort of a conglomeration of communism, fascism, socialism, Marxism, and whatever. Okay, I'm talking about those radicalized people when I say that it's under attack, America, and that American families are under attack as I am talking to you now. They are. The family has been under attack by radicalized liberal ideology, beginning probably in full force in the late 1950s and 60s with the feminist movement, but even before then, teaching men and women that the family isn't necessary. The feminist movement, teaching and advocating that women don't need men in the family. They can do it by themselves. And that we must break down literally the bounds of the family so that we can experience our true selves and true freedom. Totally antithetical to what Christian morality and the principles of Judeo-Christian foundations of this country represent. Contrary to what some people may tell you, I'm here to say the truth. Most people in America are not in favor of this radicalized deconstruction of the family, which includes a lot of things, such as same-sex marriage and same-sex families. Most people are against those things. They're against the LGBTQ kook movement. But because of the cancel culture that has been created in this country by the radicalized left, decent, good people, this majority of people of whom I'm speaking, are afraid to speak out publicly with their true feelings and their true opinions about these things because they're scared to death about the very real possibility of being physically harmed or being canceled from society or fired from their jobs, which has happened. And so they're understandably afraid and they don't speak up. The American family, as intended and as envisioned by the founding fathers, is the most important foundational institution of our republic. I mean, aside from our belief in God, the American traditional family is the most important thing we have been given. And in traditional American families, boys are taught how to be real men. And in traditional American families, girls are taught how to be real women. One biological man, one biological woman coming together, becoming parents, and then creating a family, endeavoring to provide the example of a Judeo-Christian family unit, not only to themselves, but to the community, and thereby and therefore to the world. It's impossible to underestimate or understate the importance of the American family. It is absolutely crucial. It is the number one item within our society that can support and sustain the republic. And that's exactly why the radical left has been going after it so hard for so long, to try to tear it down and break it apart. You cannot have anything stand between the state and the people. That includes God, who they've tried to eliminate and in fact have from their platform, and that includes the family. You can't have anything standing between the state and the people. And that's why the radical left attacks them. It's really that fundamental. So that was item number 3 on our reunification list as we look at each other, as we think of what this republic is supposed to be, how it was inspired, how it was created. Number 4, in order for us to reunite with each other, to reunite this republic, we've got to return to the concept and the intent of what the founders meant by limited government. The founders had no intention whatsoever for the federal government to turn into what it has become. No intent at all for the federal government to have such power as to reach into someone's personal life and make decisions about their lives. Now, I think we can come together, a lot of us, on this particular topic, but we have to be careful because there is a little bit of a thin line there to walk. I want to talk more about it when we come back from the break. Time flies, and I'm on a roll right now, but I'm up against a break. So we're on point number 4, returning to a limited government to reunify ourselves with each other in this republic. DougBillings.us, ladies and gentlemen, head over there, please. DougBillings.us. Please prayerfully consider setting up a recurring monthly donation over there. It's how I make a living. I bring you this show for free. The good people at worldviewtube.com are producing it for me. And I just ask that you head over to that website, DougBillings.us, and consider what you can, 5, 10, 20, whatever, dollars a month. It's how we continue to bring you the show. God bless you. I'll be right back, continuing the list of unification. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Hey, consider going to mypillow.com right now and get your pet a pet bed, just like my beloved Delta has right here in my office. Not only can you get pet beds, but you can get sheets, towels, blankets, and so much more. Slippers, sandals, robes, beach towels. It just goes on and on. But please, go to mypillow.com and be sure to use the promo code B66. When you do, not only will you receive savings, but a generous percentage of each purchase comes back to continue supporting this 24/7 free broadcast outlet. We need your support. Hey, look, we're entrepreneurs, just like my friend Mike Lindell. We all need your support, and you're getting quality products at the same time. So please, go to mypillow.com and use the promo code B66. Mike always has amazing specials going right there at MyPillow. So check out whatever those specials might be today. You never know. Mike's always changing it up and making new offers right there at mypillow.com. But be sure to use the promo code B66.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show. Coming to you, as I always do, from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain. And I want to talk to you about EMP, electromagnetic pulse. Now, these things can happen from the sun in nature and naturally, but they can also happen through man-made devices made by people who don't like us very much. And thanks to Kamala Harris, our failed border czar, we've got millions of people in this country who don't like us. Thank you very much, Kamala. Well, EMP Shield is a device like this one here that hooks up to your breaker box in your home, and it prevents your home and your electrical system from being fried in case of an electromagnetic pulse. There's a smaller version that you can put on the battery of your vehicle, so it is also protected. So head over to empshield.com, promo code Doug, ladies and gentlemen, empshield.com, promo code Doug. Believe it, for the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings. Doug Billings, reminding you that conservatives are better looking than liberals.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm fulfilling the meaning of life by entering into your life to make differences for the better. Thank you very much. You're also doing the same thing for me. We are in this thing together, aren't we? Trying to reclaim and save our republic from a radicalized deconstruction of what America is really supposed to be, what it's intended to be. From the very beginning, the inspiration of God, the intent of the founding fathers. We see this all around us. Evidence of the obvious, as I say, is there. Evidence of the obvious. The policies, the platform, the politics of this radicalized left movement. And how do we then begin, the rest of us, because that's a minority section of our population, believe it or not. Now, they're very loud, aren't they? The radical left, the radicalized left. They're very loud because they have the media in their pocket. But when you look at the talking heads, the radical liberal influencers and so forth on social media, the legacy news, and the politicians and the elected class, that's a minority of folks. The great majority of us aren't really on that same page. And so I'm speaking to us, those who are not radicalized, and I'm talking about how we can overcome what that radicalized minority group is trying to force upon us. 5 steps to reclaim unity among ourselves within the Republic to go forward. Things that President Reagan stood for, and that I noticed and observed when I went over the weekend to see the movie Reagan, which you should all, I do recommend it. I think you should all go see it. And I think that we see a lot of parallels, at least I did, in the movie with regards to what we see in America today. And I've said at the beginning of the program, the movie is kind of it's a subtle campaign program for Donald Trump. It really is. It doesn't mention him, obviously, nor should it, but you can see parallels between the United States then and the United States now, what we're going through internally and externally, the same kinds of threats and divisiveness, etc., that Reagan was able to cure, for lack of a better word. He was able to bring us together, and Trump doing the same thing. Again, the radicalized minority will be very loud in opposition to what I just said. Oh, no, Billings, no way. Trump is the most divisive president in the history of our republic, except they won't call it a republic. They'll say Trump's a threat to the democracy. We don't have a democracy, but that's what they'll say. So you get my drift, right? They'll be very loud, but keep in mind and always remain hopeful that that loudness is coming from a group that is the minority of thought within this republic. All right, so we're on step number 4, how to reunify ourselves within the republic in current day. We've got to return to limited government. Limited federal government was what I was talking about before we took the last break. The Founding Fathers had no intention whatsoever of the federal government having such reach, such overreach, so as to include control over people's lives. And I'm going to use an example that the Founding Fathers had no concept about, right? The Founding Fathers had no concept of abortion. I want to use it, though, as an example to illustrate this particular point. The federal government has no right to issue either a ban or an approval on a national level for abortion. They have no right to do that. And so we have got to come together and agree that the Supreme Court in this most recent decision that they've given on the topic of abortion got it right. The decision has got to be discussed. It's got to be resolved because it was the right decision to return the final decision about abortion, since I'm using it as an example, to the states. To the states. That's where the decision resides, not with the federal government. And ladies and gentlemen, the people within each state, we the people, no matter what your political ideology is, it's the people within each individual state that will decide whether or not abortion will be legal in each state. And folks, that's what the founders intended. I know that they didn't have abortion in mind, but it's a good common current day example to use. Okay, so no matter what side of this issue you're on, it's your responsibility to work within your state to elect legislators who truly represent your opinions about this particular topic, in any topic. But since we're using abortion as the example, you got to get to work. It's what I mean when I say determined patriotism. For our side, the conservative side, we've got a lot of work to do because we have not been involved enough, historically speaking, in our local levels. We have lagged behind the radical left in all of these efforts to get involved in the local levels of government. Determined patriotism, doing the hard work of the talk about patriotism. A lot of us talk a good talk about patriotism, but not very many of us have done the hard work of it all, the determined patriotism of it all. We need to get more involved in our local levels of government to ensure that our states value and honor the God-given dignity of all human life. That is what the founders intended us to do. That is our calling. That's our mission from God and the founders to get involved. That's where we sustain our rights. And my friends, it happens right there in the county in which you live. It doesn't happen in D.C. Trust me, no change, nothing ever begins in Washington, D.C. It all begins right in your county, rises up to your city, to your state, and then collectively funnels its way to D.C. That's where and how change happens, beginning right in your county. So from various departments within the federal government, such as the Department of Education, you're going to see this play out because the federal government has been far too involved in far too many things that it has no business being involved in. So again, from the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, the Department of the Interior, to an array of other departments and issues, the federal bureaucracy, so large and so big that there are people who are in non-elected positions who are putting forth policies that affect our lives. That is not what the founding fathers intended, and it will change. It will change. We will see it happen in the next Trump administration, in fact. And that's why he's already talked about it, and I've talked about it on this show. That's part of the reason why you're going to see the elimination of the Department of Education, almost, I think, within the first 100 days of his presidency. And the powers that are currently within that department are going to be returned to the states. That's going to happen in a Trump administration. The same thing is going to be true of the Department of Energy and Interior. The powers within those departments from a federal level taken away, given to the states. And those are just a few examples. But this is what the founders intended. We have become a conglomerated mess of bureaucracy and powers given to the federal government where they should only be involved in foreign affairs and fighting our wars, keeping us safe, establishing relationships with foreign countries, and keeping us safe and out of war. That's it. Not reaching into our lives. We have to agree that the Supreme Court got it right. The overturning of Roe v. Wade had nothing to do with curtailing a woman's productive rights. Nothing. But that's the spin the radical left has put on it. It's not true. It simply returned it to the states, so the states, the people within those states can then make up their own minds about that issue. And if you live in a state where the people of that state vote abortion legal, then there it is. And if you live in a state where the people of that state vote abortion to be illegal, well, there that is. And that's the intent of the founders. For us conservatives, we've got to get involved because historically we have not been, not to the greatest extent that the radical left has been. I want to get through these points and I'll have some commentary about that particular issue. But the fifth and final point about how we look at this country, we see what's going on and how we decide that we want to reunify with ourselves, how we want to reunite as Americans within the Republic of America. Not enough people talk about it, and I'm going to say it today because these issues by themselves aren't necessarily political. They are of a spiritual, an ideology. They're of a non-political realm, I'll put it that way. And these are two virtues that I want to talk about here before I wrap up this list of 5 items of unification. Those two items, those two virtues are love and forgiveness. And again, not enough people say this out loud, and I want to. I want to say it with you. I want to talk with you about it. If you feel like you want to give a call later, by the way, we're going to open the lines in a moment. 901. In fact, the lines we're going to open them. But the number is 901-316-8404. 901-316-8404. Feel free to give a call if you want to talk about these things. Love and forgiveness. All right. Because these things are needed, folks. If we're going to reunite with one another and come to terms with one another in this republic and work forward, understanding that we don't have to agree on every single part of every ideology that we hold politically, we have to understand that love and forgiveness are absolutely crucial for us to in any relationship, political, family-based, whatever. So love. Okay, love is the most important virtue there is in this life. We are told that by Jesus himself. Okay, there is no debating that. Love is the most important of all of them. To love and to be loved, I'll put it to you, my friends. To be loved and to love are, I think, part of what everyone wants. Everyone wants to be in love. Everybody wants to be loved. Everyone wants to be taken care of to some degree. And there is very, very little debate about that among anyone. Love is it. Everybody wants it. And when you think about it, loving is always easy. It's always easy, unless someone else has wronged you, or else if a situation has presented itself that upsets you. All right, that's when loving becomes difficult, and that's where, of course, forgiveness steps in. Love gets all of the press. Love gets all of the attention. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants love. Nobody really talks about forgiveness. Forgiveness. Love is the most important, and there's no denying it. But love cannot survive without forgiveness. And I want to finish up when we come back from the break talking about that very point, because it is something that this country and the people within it need to realize. All right, ladies and gentlemen, DougBillings.us. I'm always plugging that. I'm on the lookout for new sponsors and new supporters of the program. I am crowd-funded, if you will. So if you head over to DougBillings.us, click on the donate button over there and prayerfully consider setting up a monthly recurring donation. I would very much appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's how I continue to bring you the program. I don't charge you for the program, so it's how I make a living over there at DougBillings.us. Please think about that. And in the meantime, stay right where you are. I'll be right back after this short break. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Hey, consider going to MyPillow.com right now and get your pet a pet bed, just like my beloved Delta has right here in my office. Not only can you get pet beds, but you can get sheets, towels, blankets, and so much more. Slippers, sandals, robes, beach towels. It just goes on and on. But please, go to MyPillow.com and be sure to use the promo code B66. When you do, not only will you receive savings, but a generous percentage of each purchase comes back to continue supporting this 24/7 free broadcast outlet. We need your support. Hey, look, we're entrepreneurs, just like my friend Mike Lindell. We all need your support, and you're getting quality products at the same time. So please, go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code B66. Mike always has amazing specials going right there at MyPillow. So check out whatever those specials might be today. You never know. Mike's always changing it up and making new offers right there at MyPillow.com. But be sure to use the promo code B66.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show. Coming to you, as I always do, from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain. And I want to talk to you about EMP, electromagnetic pulse. Now, these things can happen from the sun in nature and naturally, but they can also happen through man-made devices made by people who don't like us very much. And thanks to Kamala Harris, our failed border czar, we've got millions of people in this country who don't like us. Thank you very much, Kamala. Well, EMP Shield is a device like this one here that hooks up to your breaker box in your home, and it prevents your home and your electrical system from being fried in case of an electromagnetic pulse. There's a smaller version that you can put on the battery of your vehicle, so it is also protected. So head over to EMPShield.com, promo code Doug, ladies and gentlemen, EMPShield.com, promo code Doug. Believe it, for the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings. Doug Billings, reminding you that conservatives are better looking than liberals.
Everybody, welcome back to Right Side with Doug Billings, where I am leading you to an incredible amount of wonder, joy, and meaning in this life, because we are talking today about the reunification of the American people underneath the umbrella of this republic. What we need to do. Inspired by the movie Reagan, I'm talking about what we see in the country today, what we see around the world as matters and issues that are separating us and how we can overcome them. So I've presented today 5 items, and we're on the 5th one, which is the virtues of love and forgiveness. And I suggested to you right before the break, love is the most important of all of the virtues. Of any virtue there is, love, most important. Jesus himself said it. There's no debating it. That is it. It's the end of the, for any debate, any question, it is it. It's the most important. But it's dependent, love is, on the virtue of forgiveness. Love cannot survive in our lives without and because of the virtue of forgiveness. I'm telling you, you cannot, let me put it this way. If you can't forgive anyone in your life, from an ex-spouse to a current employee that you have to deal with, to a family member, to a stranger, if you can't forgive them, then if you can't forgive someone else, then you're never going to be able to love anyone else truly and fully and deeply. It's really, truthfully, if you cannot forgive, love will never be able to be yours. Not fully, at least. You might be able to pretend at it for a while, but I mean it. We need to return to that concept in order to look at each other and look what we've been through together in this republic, because there are some people on both sides of the political aisle, especially, that have done some things that need forgiveness. And we need to extend that grace to one another, my friends. We need to get there. Look, we are not in a country that is going to be resolved, whose political differences are going to be resolved by open warfare with one another. We are not in a position to go to civil war. I know there's a lot of people out there who try to be podcasters and influencers who say such nonsense. That's no way forward for us. That is not only a bad idea, it's anti-American. We're not going to get involved in armed conflict with one. The nightmare that we are in right now is not our deathbed. It is not America's deathbed. It is a nightmare. And it's something from which we will wake up. We're seeing people wake up by the millions every day. It's dawning on them. Wow, really? This agenda that they're putting forth, this is not what I signed up for. Biden and Harris and what this Democratic Party has become, this this conglomeration of communism and socialism, to become a commu-socialist anti-American party. People are realizing this, and that's a good thing. And they're waking up. And the more people wake up, the more the tides in the political direction of this country will turn. And so forgiveness of those people who once thought that perhaps Biden and Harris were the answer is crucial. These are the things that America needs to return to as we begin to reclaim America back from that radicalized liberal movement. And we have to believe in one another. We have to stand with one another. We have to be neighbors again. We have to be friends again. We have to be family again. We have to be with each other, ladies and gentlemen, Americans again. That's what we need to do, to come together. And so I would be remiss if I didn't say, my faith teaches me that forgiveness is crucial. Jesus Christ spent most of his ministry talking about forgiveness, not love. He wrote an entire prayer, the Our Father, about forgiveness. How many times should I forgive my neighbor? Peter said. 7 times? No, 70 times, 7 times. Always. From the cross, forgive them, Father. They don't know what they're doing. Forgiveness was the heart and soul of the ministry of this man. And so it must be the heart and soul of our approach to each other and the relationships that we have with each other. This republic is built on relationships. This republic is built on the fact that neighbor is intended to take care of neighbor, not the federal government. And that's exactly why the radical left party, the commu-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, that's exactly why their policies and their platform put forth purposeful chaos and crisis, because chaos and crisis tends to drive a wedge between people, and it tends to drive people towards the comfort of a big federalized government that will supposedly take care of them. Well, that's not what the founders had in mind, and it is not what the divine providence of God had in mind when the inspiration for this republic was born. We take care of one another. We, the people, are the remedies to every issue that we see in America today. That's what Ronald Reagan stood for, and that's what Donald Trump is trying to tell us today. It's we the people, and it's not Trump. And for those of you who are so concerned about the Republic of America that you would believe for a moment that if Trump does not win, God forbid, but if Trump does not win, that somehow America is over, that is not true. We, the people, thank you very much, will decide if America is over or not. Not one person, not one elected official, not even Donald Trump. We, the people, will decide that. I love Donald Trump. I love everything that he represents. I want him to win the presidency. But if he doesn't, America will continue. And we, the people, will continue the work of determined patriotism. We will continue. And we will go on, and we will eventually prevail. How do I know this? Because that's what the divine providence of God wants to happen. God doesn't create things only to abandon them. God doesn't inspire things to just give up. We must realize that. We have got to come to terms with that. We, the people, and this means reaching over the aisle. And this is why I'm so happy that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had the bravery to do what he did, to leave, let me correct that, to realized that the Democrat Party that his father and uncle belonged to had disintegrated and left him, he came over to our side. Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, and multiple millions of common folk throughout this republic have done the same thing. They've come over to the right side because they have awoken from the nightmare. It got so bad that they've all realized this is not what the divine providence of God and the intent of the founding fathers is all about. And so here we are, and that's how we prevail. So play this back. Read the transcript. If you're listening to it, listen to it again on your way home from work. Those 5 steps, we've got to reunify with each other, people. We have more in common than we do not. And we will prevail against this minority group of people that have taken over the radicalized wing of the liberal movement in America, and with the help of the media have made themselves seem very loud and very boisterous and very profound, but they are not. The truth is that the divine providence of God and the intent of the founding fathers resides with the right side, with the conservative movement in America. There is no way that you can convince me, and I'm sure that you're not convinced yourselves, that anything that's part of what we see now in this radicalized left movement in America has anything to do with God or the intent of the founding fathers. In fact, it's the exact opposite, and they themselves have said it. Getting rid of God and abandoning the founding fathers by virtue of what they want to do to the institutions that they have set up. Removing the Electoral College, removing the Supreme Court are just 2 of the examples. But to fundamentally want to transform America is not patriotic. America does not need to be fundamentally transformed, unless you're talking about transforming it back away to the divine providence of God and the intent of the founders from this radicalized left liberal version of the anti-America movement that it's become. So have faith in all of this, okay, my friends? And listen, one more thing before I go. I'm going to have a conference in Branson, Missouri, December 13th and 14th, the Determined Patriotism Conference, where we're going to talk specifically about these things, how we unify together as people, as citizens in our counties. How do we take back America? How do we get involved as conservatives? DeterminedPatriotismConference.com. That's the website right there. Thank you, Logan, for showing that. DeterminedPatriotismConference.com. That's your website. Go over there, get information and tickets. The speaker list is growing by the day, by the week. There will be education, motivation, and inspiration for you to get back involved. This is what conservatives need to do to pick up the slack of involvement in the local levels of government, in the local counties in which we live. And so this conference is a way to do it. We're going to have a lot of fun there, by the way, too. It's going to be Branson, Missouri. Think about it. December 13th and 14th, the Christmas season. Branson, Missouri, if you've never been there during Christmas, is like a Norman Rockwell painting. There's Tom Renz and Mike Lindell. You see Mark McCloskey, my friend Alex Stone, and Father James Altman, just to name a few, but lots of other speakers there as well. And the list is growing. And it hopefully, knock on wood, will be a celebration about the re-election of Donald Trump. So again, that website, ladies and gentlemen, DeterminedPatriotismConference.com is far from me. I'm glad to see you here on X and on Facebook and YouTube, Rumble, the WorldViewTube.com community, worldviewtube.com. Ladies and gentlemen, head over there, check out all of their content as well. Spreely TV, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, look, you and I will always meet in determined prayer and determined patriotism. And I'll see you every Monday through Friday right here, 5 to 6 o'clock Central Time. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.